will now like to begin the Bringing Biking Online Virtual Education and Encouragement session. I'll begin by introducing myself. My name is Adekemi, and I am the League of American Bicyclists National Bike Summit intern. I've been providing support to the League through emails and website updates, and I am a master's student of urban planning and policy at the University of Illinois, Chicago. My professional interests lie in active transportation. Today, your presenters will be Alison Dewey, Erika, Benti, and Shane Rhodes, and I'll go on and present each of them. Alison Dewey is the Education Director at the League of American Bicyclists. She has been a League cycling instructor for 16 years and has been on staff at the League for 13 years. She lives in Maryland and looks forward to returning to the days in the office so that she can commute by bike once again. While Erika Benti is an active transportation professional at Colorado State University in Fort Collins, Colorado. This is where she works with students to promote sustainable transportation modes and collaborates with an amazing team to develop innovative safety, education, and encouragement programs. Erika has worked at CSU, her alma mater, for 4 years and has spent 11 years in the transportation demand management field. Also working in Los Angeles, Denver, and Portland, Oregon. She is an LCI who enjoys teaching smart cycling courses and is a mom to 1-year-old Charlie. And we have Shane Rhodes. Shane is a transportation options coordinator for the City of Eugene. He has worked in the active transportation field for over 2 decades. He has managed cargo bike courier companies, worked on state, local, and national nonprofit boards and committees focused on active transportation, taught thousands of youth and adult bicycle and pedestrian safety, started and ran Safe Routes to School program for Eugene, the Eugene 4J School District for 9 years. Shane is a League of American Bicyclists coach, training new League cycling instructors, and has run all types of transportation options and projects for the City of Eugene, including Sunday Streets, Smart Trips, Bike Share, and more. He is also the proud father of 3 preteens who love to pop onto his Zoom calls in one form or another. Maybe we'll see one of them today.
Alexa, stop.
Right. At this time, I would like to remind each of you to ensure that you remain on mute for the presentation. Let's go over a few housekeeping tips for this meeting. We do love to see your smiling faces. It does make it more fun for everyone, so please ensure to keep your camera on. Again, keep yourself muted unless otherwise invited. And as I stated before, use the Zoom chat function for questions or comments during these presentations. Closed captioning is turned on. We will turn that on just in a moment. And if you do not want the closed captioning running on the bottom of your screen, you're welcome to turn it off using your user navigation bar. Right. Alison, could you assist me with the closed captioning? Thank you. As you can see, this meeting is being recorded. We will have question and answer at the end of the meeting. And we do remind each and every one of you to be respectful in live comments, chats, and videos. And if you would like to join the conversation online, be sure to use hashtag BikeSummit21. You can see the full agenda at bikeleague.org/summit or through the Whova website and app. Thank you to our sponsors. At this time, I will pass the mic over to Alison Dewey, who will begin her presentation.
Great, thanks, Kemi. Okay, let me get my stuff up and running. And Kemi, I think the closed captioning can be turned on as you're the host. So if you can get that, or it might be a setting in Zoom. You might be able to do that after the fact. Thanks so much for the introduction, and thank you all for being here. I want to give a big shout out to Kemi. We've here at the League, we've been putting a lot on her. She's been a rock star throughout, and she is certainly going to be a catch in the active transportation world when she's done with her master's. So keep her in mind for future openings. Okay, I think she's going to look into the closed captioning issue. I know it's a setting in Zoom.
It
again,
looks like it's actually coming through just fine, Alison. Just
oh,
wanted to let
good.
you know.
Okay, awesome. All right, I knew she'd pull through. All right, so I'm going to just take a few moments here before we hear from Erika and Shane to tell you about a few opportunities of virtual cycling education through the League of American Bicyclists. First, shoot, I might have the wrong, oh, okay. Just bear with me for 1 second. Sorry about this. Yes, okay. Okay, I have too many PowerPoints that look alike. All right, here we go. This is the right one. Okay. So we have a few opportunities at the League of American Bicyclists for virtual bicycling education. And I want to start out by introducing you to the new online League Learning Center. Now, this is going to be multiple topics, not just cycling education. We'll also have advocacy education on here as well. But for now, our smart cycling curriculum is the foundation of the online learning center. We have our basic, advanced, and intermediate sections of smart cycling included on the online platform. It's broken down into small, very short chunks so people can go at their own pace in working through the curriculum. There's videos, there's quizzes, there's PDFs, there's short presentations that are recorded, almost like you're in a classroom. And you can, and it's free for everyone. You can check it out, learn.bikeleague.org. In the future, we'll be adding components such as the bicycle-friendly driver training, the more additional advocacy training. Some of you may have even seen the Lobbying 101 or Advocacy 101 on here, as they were included earlier in the registration process for the summit. Also in the Learning Center is the Smart Cycling exam. This can be taken by anyone interested in learning more about cycling. It is intended to be taken after you review the basic, intermediate, and advanced sections of smart cycling. And this is also one of the prerequisites for being eligible to enroll in a League Cycling Instructor Seminar that are hosted throughout the country at different times of the year. Successful completion of the exam generates a downloadable certificate of completion for you. Again, this is a free exam for everyone to take. I also want to direct you to the resource. We hosted a webinar earlier in the, well, kind of in the middle of 2020, once the pandemic was I guess, months underway. We hosted a webinar about online bicycling education in September of 2020. And we featured the Bicycle Coalition for Greater Philadelphia, Washington Area Bicyclists Association, and the San Francisco Bicycle Coalition. We also heard from a lot of other of our partner groups in that conversation. It's an hour long and it can be found on the League's YouTube channel. And here is the link as well. And then finally, once we realized that we probably weren't going to go back to in-person LCI seminars for a while, we pivoted and created a virtual format for the seminar. I should call it a mostly virtual format because there is a few hours of on-bike and in-person instruction that takes place of the about 24 hours of the seminar. It's broken into 3 days, and the middle day typically includes that on-bike instruction of the seminar. So now people have the option of hosting a mostly virtual seminar and an in-person seminar. And both the mostly virtual seminar and the in-person seminar people are required to adhere to the CDC guidelines. We also do a health questionnaire, which I'm sure a lot of people are familiar with now. This is a snapshot of our first mostly virtual LCI seminar coached by Jennifer Larita. A couple advantages of this now is that we have a reduced minimum for the mostly virtual seminar. The minimum number of participation is 6, and then it minimizes travel for everyone. And we're seeing positive feedback on this format too. Okay, I think that's it for me. I promised I would only speak a little bit. I hope I didn't go too far over, but I'm going to turn it over now to Erika to talk about what's going on at CSU.
Great, thank you very much, Allison. All right, let me take just a moment here to get my presentation going. There we go. All right, and I'm just adjusting my audio settings for just a moment, so hang with me, everyone. Okay, here we go. All right. Okay. Hi, everyone. My name is Erika Benti. I'm with Colorado State University, and I'm here to tell you about an online training that we developed called CSU Moves, which actually has been in the works for several years now, so pre-pandemic, but I think has some great lessons learned that we can share with you all about putting together a virtual training. So let's dive in. All right, so Colorado State University is located in northern Colorado. We have about 35,000 students, and we are the state's land grant research institution. We're also very proud to be a platinum bicycle friendly university. Now we're located in Fort Collins, Colorado, which is also a platinum bicycle friendly city and has a fun bike culture. So some great events that happen in Fort Collins, and actually, great infrastructure as well. Now I would say that our incoming students coming to CSU know about CSU or about Fort Collins bike culture. And so many of them arrive to campus with their bike on their first day. But just because they have a bike doesn't necessarily mean that they know how to ride it safely, in mixed modes on the street, with other modes of transportation. So it's our task at CSU to make sure that everyone is educated and understands how to ride safely. So we do that several ways. We have a lot of in-person events, typically in the first couple months of the school year. And so this is an example. This is my colleague, Erin Buckley, with a group of international students on bike share bikes. So we take them out and check out the different infrastructure that we have on campus and in town near campus. And we do lots of other kind of intercept events, other opportunities to reach out to different groups of students. But we have about 6,000 incoming students each year. And so we just knew that even with all of this in-person outreach and then of course, recently not being able to do that either, we just knew that we weren't able to reach every single student. So that's where this idea of developing an online training came up. So our main objectives for having an online training was, just like I mentioned, to reach those 6,000 incoming students each year. This picture here is a pre-COVID tradition that we have of gathering the whole incoming class together and taking a big group photo. So I think this is the 2018 incoming class. So how do we reach all these students? And ideally before they even get to campus, to set that baseline of understanding and expectation of how you safely operate your bicycle amongst other people on campus. We also really wanted to treat transportation as a life skill. So this is something, if we can teach students about how transportation and their choices with transportation impact their community, the environment, and their wallet, it's something that's not only going to serve them during their time at CSU, but also, well into, later into their life when they start their career and decide how they commute. And finally, we wanted to make it fun. So right now, our incoming class are mostly made up of Generation Z. And so we really wanted to do something that would appeal to this generation that has, really grown up using technology, and I think has come to expect fast, little bite-sized snippets of information. So we really wanted to cater the training to that audience. So here's kind of the timeline so far of developing this training. It first came up in 2016. We got funding to cover about half of the development through the City of Fort Collins through a grant in 2017. And we were able to launch in the fall of 2018 with a pilot group of students, and now have been providing the training to students, up until now. So, and we plan to continue to do that. So to tell you a little bit about this training that we ended up developing, we worked with an interdisciplinary group at CSU and in the City of Fort Collins to put together a curriculum. We tried to put together all the different ideas we had about the important information that we wanted to convey, and then kind of boiled that down into 6 key units that we've listed here. So we also, in working with Generation Z, as I mentioned, we worked with our creative services department at CSU to come up with kind of a fun, novel idea for transportation training, which is this concept that we're on a college campus, and it's like a nature documentary. And so we're observing how the animals are getting around on this college campus. And trying to just in 60 or 90 seconds, each of these videos is very short, trying to get across this main idea that we've been talking about in the unit. So whether it's the first one, transportation choice matters, all the different choices they have, down to number 6, share the road, how you interact with different modes. So I want to show you kind of how we plugged in these short videos into our virtual training platform. So we used Canvas, which is CSU's online education platform. So a student who's taking any class that has an online component would go into Canvas. And we start out the unit by showing this animated video of the college campus as a nature documentary. And then we dive in with additional local content that helps to go into more detail on some of the initial points that we've introduced in the video. And we tried to really incorporate a lot of existing material that we already had, whether they were infographics or images or bullet pointed lists. We really tried to incorporate different types of media to address different learning styles. So I would like to show you real quick an example of one of these videos. It's about 90 seconds, and it is for our unit number 2, which is Be Seen, Be Heard. So let me just double check before I turn it on. I'm going to double check and make sure that I am sharing my the sound from my computer, and I do believe I am, but please, Kemi, if it's not coming through, interrupt and we'll start over again. But here we go. I'll share the video with you.
In the wild, animals adapt to their surroundings. By being seen and heard, they increase their chances of survival. While some animals are masters of camouflage, birds of paradise are the kings of being seen. Their colorful plumage makes them impossible to ignore. Even in the cover of night, some animals make themselves known. The firefly lights the dark skies, and without a doubt, they are present. Some animals use their sight to make themselves known. By watching carefully, the tarsier uses his vision to communicate with others. When animals cannot be visually noticed, they find ways to get their point across. Although it cannot be seen, the goat's call is unmistakable to those around it. Through unique adaptations, the animals ensure their survival. It's a jungle out there, and only the fit will thrive.
All right, so here we go. So that again was an example of one of our videos for Be Seen, Be Heard. And so in the training, once the student watches that video, then we follow up with some additional content about, what are the laws regarding having lights on your bike? What hand signals can you use to show people what you're intending to do when you're riding? What are some best practices for being seen when you're walking at night? Those types of things. All right, so I wanted to talk to you a little bit about some of the data collection that we do as a part of this training. So the participant will take, throughout the course of the training, which by the way, I don't think I mentioned before, the whole training takes about an hour to do. And over the course of that training, they'll participate in a couple of surveys. One right before they dive into any of the content, the second at the very end of all the content, and then the third goes out a month or two after they've taken the training, and that's to gauge, how they retain the information and whether it influenced any decisions that they made around transportation. So what we've found in providing this survey to the participants over these past couple of years is we find, compared to a control group, that they are knowledgeable, that as a result of the training, they're knowledgeable, especially regarding the ideas of sharing the road and of safe bicycling practices. And we also find that they report being comfortable and familiar with the various transportation modes that are available to them at CSU and in Fort Collins. Otherwise, just to talk to you about some of our progress to date, our main objective, what we hope to do eventually, is to have this training be mandatory for all incoming students each year. We haven't gotten there yet, but I think we're getting closer. To be honest, one of the biggest challenges we've faced is, again, positioning transportation as a life skill and working with our administration and our student affairs department to figure out where it fits in with the other trainings that students have to take and all the other things that they have to do before they come to campus. And so, for example, students are required to take trainings about sexual assault and alcohol abuse before they come to campus. And then, of course, there's all the registration and other types of things, signing up for housing that they have to do. And so we've run into this concern that we're just overburdening students with too much information. But I think by presenting this as a life skill that will help keep them safe while they're here, I think that has really helped further the cause as we've gone through these past couple of years. We also, a nice success to report is, you may have noticed the video itself wasn't really CSU focused. We intentionally developed these so that other universities could take these main 6 videos and then add their own, local additional content onto them. So we've had a few other universities sign up to take the videos and add their content and provide them to their students. So UC Berkeley, Virginia Tech, shout out to Nick, I think he might be in the audience from Virginia Tech, and Western Washington University are all working with these videos right now and adding their own local content to them. So to bring it back to any of you out there who are thinking of putting together a virtual training using the materials that you already have access to, I just have a few lessons learned to share with you. First off, consider your audience. For us, it was Gen Z, and we wanted to make these quick snippets of information for them. Try to incorporate mixed media types. That'll help address different learning styles. Consider accessibility. So, you probably saw our video had closed captioning in it, but we also, with our written content online, try to make sure that it's as accessible as possible for somebody using a screen reader. And then finally, incorporating data collection. I think it's been really helpful for us to make the case that this training is important for our students. And it also helps us understand if there are areas that we need to go back and reconsider and make better. So with that, I'll leave you with my contact information here. I can also put it in the chat afterwards so you all can grab it. Please feel free to reach out to me, if you have any questions at all. I'm happy to share my experience with you. And with that, I think I'm going to pass it over to my fellow panelist, Shane.
Great, thanks so much. That's so excited. I'm excited to have the University of Oregon here in Eugene become a partner as well. I know we have some great education programming going on, but I think this is such a cool program that you've created there. So thanks for sharing that. And I'm just going to jump in since Kimmy already gave a good introduction to my background, but I'll be speaking with you today from some experience as the City of Eugene active transportation, the transportation options coordinator for the City of Eugene, but also as a league cycling coach for the League of American Bicyclists. So I'm going to talk about some of the programming we have in Eugene and how we brought some of that online. There we go. So a major component of our transportation options program at the City of Eugene is Smart Trips, which is an individualized marketing campaign that focuses on certain populations, usually centered around neighborhoods, and provides that population with targeted materials, outreach events, and programming focused on their transportation needs. The program has direct contact with people by delivering free materials to them via bike, as well as hosting many special events. In 2020, our plan was to implement our first downtown Smart Trips program focused not just on residents, but also on businesses. And in the future, we're planning some university focused, both for staff and students. With the start of COVID, obviously we had to do a major shift away from our plan to do our downtown program. And one of the major events of our Smart Trips program is our Sunday Streets, which is an open streets event that many of you know from your communities or in other communities. We started ours in 2011, and we were holding 2 events each year with over 10,000 participants coming out to those events to experience using our right-of-way in a new and fun way. Again, not something that was possible in the time of COVID. So we decided to transition that program to a way to offer the same re-envisioning of the right-of-way, but to do it in a way that didn't bring so many people together at one time. So we created, like several communities around the country, our own Slow Streets project that we called Open Streets. We worked with a neighborhood in a traditionally underserved area of town to pilot the project, focusing on connecting people with parks, shopping, and services. Though not necessarily an online adaptation, it highlighted for us the importance of using COVID as a time for reflection and determining what the best use of our resources were and how we might adapt our program to reach a different group of the community that we've reached in the past. Another big change because of COVID, in May, we received word from our bike share operator, which was Uber, that they were no longer going to be providing services to us. So not only were we certain we weren't going to be doing any programming online or otherwise, we also weren't sure we would be able to keep bike share alive in Eugene. But thanks for the support from the city leadership and our partners. The value of bike share went out, and we brought all operations internal to the city until we could find another operator. We're just finishing up our RFP and contracting phase to bring a new nonprofit bike share operator on board. And we're excited about the silver linings that have come out of this process. And we're talking about doing some in-person and virtual events, including classes in May to celebrate the new partnership. And hopefully at the next summit, I can share some news about a statewide bike share program that could be in the works. Another strong biking program in our community is our Safe Routes to School program, which reaches over 1,000 kids every year with some sort of pedestrian, scooter, bike safety education programming, including an 8-hour on-bike program that utilizes 3 bike fleets of bikes, trailers, and trained instructors through the city's recreation program, and in partnership with the 2 school districts, 4J and Bethel, and their Safe Routes to School coordinators. Obviously, with the year of online learning, the in-person classes have mostly stopped, though the recreation program was able to offer some very small classes using the bike fleet, and Safe Routes to School offered some resources to teachers, but then also some online services just to the community, including a great collection of remote learning tools for teachers and families. The compiled online resources can be found at Eugene Springfield SRTS. They were categorized by grade, and then 9th through 12th has material that's also useful for new and returning adult riders. Safe Routes School also worked with the U of O athletics department to do some fun book reading videos for the younger students with a focus on kids' books about walking and biking. Like most people, our in-person meetings and events turned to Zoom, and though the direct connections have made some aspects more difficult, we are definitely seeing some advantages that we all might recognize by live streaming a Zoom webinar via YouTube. We have easily accessible active transportation committee meeting and a way for people to watch live or tune in later and just watch the parts that they're most interested in. This allows for more accessibility. The online chat allows for good communication with attendees. We've had some very lively conversations in those chats about things that were being presented that we probably wouldn't have had in an in-person meeting. And we have more people coming to our meetings than we did when they were held in a city building. So we're encouraged by that and recognize that we won't be doing our meetings the way we did them before. Even when we're meeting in person, we're talking about how we're going to be live streaming those as well to give people those options. In our region, our Oregon Friendly Driver course, which is similar to the Bicycle Friendly Driver course that the League offers, but focused on Oregon and multimodal, has been brought online with a pre and post quiz and a webinar style video that goes along with those quizzes, and people can register online to take those courses and then receive a certificate. The platform for our meetings is Zoom, but for some of our events, we found another platform that's worked better for us for more production of a show and different ways to engage people. We're using StreamYard for some of our events, as it's allowed us to stream on different platforms at the same time and give us some high production value for relatively inexpensive or free for basic services. The ability to have banners, logos, live comments gave the show a little bit more of a polished look and made interactions more interesting and engaging. Throughout last May for Bike Month, we had events like Transportation Tuesday Wonk Talks, Friday Fun Time, where we did a more produced show that we live streamed on Facebook and YouTube, and people could interact live via different social media platforms, and we could include their questions. We even did some educational parts with quizzes that people could answer online and be entered into a raffle. I found StreamYard to be very simple, direct and professional looking, and a nice alternative to Zoom. I know some people are doing some interesting things with Twitch and Discord, Vimeo Live, Brand Live, and others. With work from home, podcasting, and live streaming technology, and resources growing all the time. There's some great tools for people to find for their education outreach messages. Part of the trick is finding the tool that's right for you and your message. And then one event I wanted to highlight is what our transportation team worked on in our transition to online, and even some COVID safe protocol in-person events was the opening of our newest piece of infrastructure, the 13th Avenue Protected Bikeway. This two-way protected bikeway connects the University of Oregon and downtown Eugene. As part of that opening, we had several online events that told people about what to expect and what this new piece of infrastructure, including the 20+ new bike signal heads and how they functioned. We produced videos to highlight the new infrastructure, how to use it, and announcing different events we were hosting, including deals to encourage people not only to use the bikeway, but to support the local businesses that were affected by COVID and construction. By bringing our events online, we're working to educate people on changes they'll see and encourage them to get out and use them when it's safe to do so. And finally, I wanted to highlight something that Alison talked a little bit about on our online seminars, our first virtual league seminars. In October, we held one in Santa Cruz. We've had a couple of these virtual seminars, and in 2020, I think, or in 2019, I think we had over 20, but we've had a few of these virtual ones. This one in Santa Cruz, we held most of the 22-hour seminar via Zoom, which wasn't as bad as the candidates thought it might be. But with the help of 3 great LCIs, we were able to hold on-road and parking lot skills and drills portions for the seminar with small groups and people masked. The LCIs live streamed all the skills and drills to me so I could observe them and offer advice and guidance from my home. And overall, it was a great class that allowed 8 more LCIs to get certified to teach smart cycling. By utilizing our base seminar agenda, we adapted to fit this new virtual format, and with breakout rooms, movement breaks, mixing up presentation styles, and having some in-person material, I think that the virtual seminars have offered us a great alternative and are showing us how we might integrate some virtual pieces into future seminars, even when we're able to do them all in person. It's an exciting, adaptable time with challenges that present many opportunities. And I'm looking forward to having some Q&A and discussion time to talk about what you're interested in learning about and talking more about it. Thanks so much.
Thank you, Shane. Thank you, Erika, and thank you, Alison. We do have a few questions that we'll go over, some that were asked in the chat box. The first is for Alison from Paul Caden. Rather than this type of content in reference to the CSU content and the City of Eugene content being recreated multiple times across various communities, can the League create some great generic interactive digital content?
Well, we do currently have some great digital content. We have a series of videos. I think recreating, I think the second version of those probably is not in the scope of work for a bit now. We'll be developing our online learning center, that's for certain. And so we'll be building on that. I mean, the videos that Erika shared are amazing, and I'm sure a lot of resources went into that. And I think, you know, I would encourage everyone to look at the League's video library to see what we have there. Sorry, but yeah, we would just be building on our online center.
Thank you. This next question is for Erika. From Robin Stallings. Are all incoming freshmen, incoming students required to take the training?
So no, they're not yet, although it is our end goal to have them eventually have all incoming students take the training. I did notice another, to get to a related question that I noticed in the chat about how much participation we have had with it being voluntary. It's varied over the incoming semesters, but in general, I would say it numbers in the hundreds and not in the thousands that we want. And so I think we have a lot of work yet to go of how to figure out how to get students to voluntarily take the training until it becomes mandatory. One thing that we are, that I think we're going to be working on for this upcoming fall is partnering with the residence halls and incorporating it into some of the training that the RAs do with their students. So yeah, that's where we're at right now.
Great. Thank you. For Shane, one simple question, you can add a link to the chat box. Mary Jo Gellenbeck was asking if there was a link for the organ-friendly driver course. And a follow-up question for you to answer. How did you manage the LCI road test virtually? And you shared.
Yep, I put the links in there for the organ-friendly driver program, as well as the Safe Routes to School, where you can find the online resources that they compiled. And the on-road portions that I did virtually, but that were actually done in person. So for the seminar, we actually had 3 LCIs who were there assisting, and the candidates performed the drills, the parking lot drills, and we just had a live video feed happening. The LCIs could provide feedback and give input, and then I could also do the same sort of via the LCIs. For the on-road portion, I wasn't along for the ride, but I did scope out using actually Google Maps the whole route before, to make sure that we were touching on all the pieces of the smart cycling course, and so that I sort of knew what the candidates were experiencing, and then I could ask them questions afterwards about what they experienced on that section. So it was definitely an interesting adaptation of not being able to be there in person, but having them actually do that virtual piece. We're talking in the at the city about how we're going to be utilizing some virtual quizzes and these online pieces, and then having the small group rides that we will actually get people together and do the ride portions. And I think that there's a lot more of that education that's going to be happening in the future that will be that hybrid model, which is interesting, because now my kids are in this hybrid model of learning, and they're here, and then they're starting to go to school now some, and so I think the hybrid is definitely the interesting word in education these days.
Definitely. Thank you. For Erika, we do have a few questions with regards to sharing your videos. You did mention a few of your partners, but Pete was wanting to know, would these videos be able to use for their, would you be able to use these videos for their high school Bike to Leadership program? And building off of that, Tracy Traudal was wanting to know if we were giving permission to educators like her to use videos and information.
Yeah, so what we've done with these 3 partner universities that I listed is we've set up an arrangement with them where they've paid in a little bit to help kind of offset some of the costs of developing the videos, and then they get a license to use them, and then to put in their own additional content. So that's definitely something I'd be happy to explore with anyone out there who's interested in using that, whether it's a university or a high school or something like that. I do think, though, that they're really meant to be paired with additional content, and so I think that's important, and something we've also asked the other universities who've signed on to do is to do similar research and data collection, so that we can kind of have a collective research project going to see how effective these are. So yeah, I mean, I think what's important to us in developing the videos is that they are getting used to do education for folks. So I think we're happy to have that discussion with people. So feel free to, shoot me an email.
Awesome. And for Shane, could you expand a bit more on the statewide bike share idea? This is from Mary Jo Gellenbeck.
Nope, not yet.
Okay.
Sorry. Hopefully next year, we'll, like I said, we'll have more information. There's a lot sort of influx right now with our local bike share, and but some really amazing opportunities are blossoming in Oregon, and so hopefully we'll be able to share more later.
Thank you. I have a question for the three of you. These two questions build off of one another. There are many questions in the chat for tips for engaging more people during online sessions, as well as how do you evaluate the reception and effectiveness of online programs? Does anyone have any plans to incorporate improvements based on the feedback received?
I'll let Erika touch some on this because I know that she actually does have some data of pre and post. And I know that most of what our online pieces as far as our events and online change has been anecdotal. When we hear from people, we have noticed most of our streams are streamers, people who are watching, if they're not joining our ATC meeting via the webinar format, most are watching on YouTube versus Facebook because we do stream on both. We're getting a lot more interaction on that platform just because I think it's a little bit more open and it's sort of an easy one to watch video on, and we're getting more interaction on that. And so we're just sort of watching where our metrics come in from and trying to add or change what we're doing because of those. But it's definitely currently very anecdotal, and I'd love to be able to do a little bit more hard data piece, but we haven't done that yet.
Yeah, just quickly from the league, our online learning center, it's pretty cool. I get alerts if a question reaches a threshold of people getting it wrong. And so that tells me that there's something in the question that maybe is confusing people, or maybe it's just a lack of education throughout the series of information in the Learning Center. So we take a look at that, and we have adjusted questions based on that feedback.
Yeah, and I think I would just add from the data that we've collected in our surveys with the virtual training. I mean, in a sense, it's nice because people can kind of just go at their own speed. I think we have learned that they do appreciate having the different media types, and we've heard feedback on what is like video. For example, we have a couple of videos that are student testimonials. There's one of a gal who got into a crash, and now she talks about why she's a helmet wearer for life. And they really like that one. Like, they like hearing from a fellow student. And then just thinking about some of my other experiences doing smart cycling online and stuff, I think just incorporating some of those different experiences and different media, I think just kind of help keep people engaged and alert and paying attention to what's going on.
Thank you. We do have enough time for one more question. We'll ask this last one. For Erika, there's been a lot of questions with regard to data collection. Deanna Smith was wanting to know what data they collect through the surveys, while Malia would like to know, if you gathered data, who were participating in these educational videos and surveys? Were they mostly already cyclists? And what percentage were non-cyclists?
Yeah, sure. I'll try to address that quickly. And I know there have been a lot of questions in the chat about this type of stuff. So I'll try to follow up with people whose questions I can't answer in the call later. But in general, in the surveys, that pre and post survey, we ask almost the same questions about, do you plan to bring a car to campus? What do you think your primary mode of getting around will be? So we're able to compare before and after. And I would say, I do suspect that in some ways, since students are voluntarily signing up to do this, they're students who may be a little bit more interested in different modes of transportation. So we might have a little bit of a bias there using, a voluntary pool of students. But we've definitely seen in our data that there are students who've said, I plan to bring a car in the beginning, and then at the end have decided not to, because they've found that they can get around without one. So yeah, that's the type of information that we collect. And then after they take the training, and then the one that we send out a couple months later, we're asking about actually what was their primary mode for getting around campus, what was their primary mode for doing errands around town, how comfortable do they feel in different topic areas. So that was kind of the content in the surveys.
Well, thank you. I would like to thank Shane, Alison, Erika. Thank you all for speaking with us, and to all of the participants who joined us today. We appreciate you. And we look forward to seeing you at other sessions throughout the summit. Have a great day.
Thank you. Thanks, Kemi.